Hi guys, how are y'all doing today?
Good.
Good? So my name is Tatiana Hernandez and I wrestled at Sunnyside for all my 4 years that I was there. And my freshman year is when the inaugural season for women's wrestling started. But where I actually started wrestling was when I was in 7th grade. I started wrestling because my brother was wrestling at the time, and after going to some of his practices at the Cyclones or with some of his matches at tournaments and stuff, it really caught my eye and I really started to gain interest in it. But at the time I was playing softball, so it was hard to maintain both sports in school. So my parents kind of told me to make a decision because it was kind of getting hard doing both sports. And so I decided to stick with wrestling, and I'm glad I did because it got me to where I am, which we'll talk about that later on. But that's basically where it all began. But it wasn't until my sophomore year until I started taking it very, very seriously, meaning I didn't understand. I started understanding how to work out and how to train and how to properly do things without having your coach tell you every second what you're supposed to be doing, when you're supposed to work out, what exact workouts are you supposed to do. Those are things by the end of say if you want to go to college, by the time you go to college, those are the things that you gotta learn how to do, how to train on your own, time management is also a big thing too as you get older. And so yeah, that's when I started learning how the importance of workouts and time management in school and multitasking basically, and trying to balance everything out and stuff. So that's where it all started. These are some of my biggest accomplishments throughout my 5-6 years of wrestling. So this is when I first became an All-American in high school. I was on Flow Sports, and I had won the Reno TLC, and I was the first female wrestler to do it in Sunnyside. And also it was the inaugural year for women's wrestling for Reno too. So I was also the first one to win Reno for the first time they've had it for girls. So, and also because I was the lightest weight class. And over here is when I first won Wrestler of the Week in college. And then that's when I became a 2-time All-American 3 months ago, back at Nationals in March. So yeah, these are some of my biggest accomplishments throughout my wrestling. These are my role models. So this is my brother, and that's Coach Crinzy and Coach Bias at Grandview, which is also where I'm transferring after I finish my sophomore year at where I'm currently at. And I'm gonna finish my last 2 years of school with them. And over here we have Coach Bravo. I don't know if you guys know him, but his name's Roman Bravo Young. That's his grandpa right there, and he kind of took me under his wing my sophomore year. And so he helped me become a better wrestler and better person, and has gotten me through a bunch of tough times through my wrestling, through my injuries and stuff, and helped me with my technique. And he's one of the main person who taught me how important it is to work out even when he's not around. And he told me that he's not always going to be there to tell me when to work out, what the workouts are. Those are things, that's what I was talking about, how you have to know when to do those things and when's the right time to do those things and how to do them. And he taught me that. So yeah. So right now, currently, I got a scholarship to wrestle for college. So I'm now at North Iowa, and I'm doing my first 2 years there, and then I'm transferring to Grandview University, which is in Des Moines, Iowa. But this is when I won my first tournament in college. This is like my roster picture. This is like my roster picture, my commitment picture, and then this was my training partner and my one of the female assistant coaches too. So they're all like really great people to be around, and those two have impacted my college season so far. So that's kind of like where I'm at, and like the gist of like where it all began and how it slowly started, how I slowly started to be over here. Does anybody have any questions? You.
What inspired you to wrestle?
My brother did. Yeah.
How old were you when you started wrestling?
I was probably like 13, 12 or 13. Yeah.
How long have you wrestled?
Since 7th grade. Do you have a question?
Yeah. How many times have you won wrestling?
There's a lot of times. But in college, my season record was probably like, I think like 10-3, 11-3. Yeah. Somewhere around there, if I can remember. Yeah.
Have you ever got like badly injured?
The only major injury I had was on my left knee. I had damaged my meniscus and my ACL, and I had some nerve damage too, but it wasn't, I was like back on the mat within like 3 or 4 months, but luckily it wasn't as bad where they had to do surgery, and it kind of just healed on its own within the months, but that was really the only major injury I had. So.
How long do you practice wrestling? How many days?
Usually it's like 5-6 times out the week, sometimes 7, because usually like the 7th day, which is Sunday, we'll go on runs at like 8 Mountain, or we'll do the Bilby run. But most of the time it's just Monday through Saturday, sometimes Monday through Friday if there's tournaments, because everybody like travels, and the coaches I have, they travel with like the younger wrestlers too, so but those are the times where you have to get workouts in on your own. When the coaches can't, you have to get your workout in on your own. Yeah.
Who was the best coach you ever had?
All my coaches are great. All of my coaches are great. But the 2 coaches that I'm probably the closest with is Coach Leon and Coach Bravo. So.
What is the biggest win that you ever had?
The biggest what?
Win.
My biggest win was when I first All-American at Reno. That was a huge thing. So that was probably my biggest win.
What's the feeling you get when you know everyone's watching you in the tournaments and stuff?
At first, I kind of learned how to deal with that, because at first I was like really nervous, and I haven't like competed like that in front of a large crowd. But over time, like as you're wrestling, you're just focused on your opponent and what the next move is, and kind of aware of like what they're going to do, and you're more worried about your opponent than you are than who's watching you. Because in that moment, you don't even look around to see who's paying attention or who's watching. Because in that moment, it doesn't matter. It matters what you do to win that match, to survive that 6 minutes.
Who was the biggest opponent you ever had? Who was the hardest?
All of them were really good competitors. They all gave me a good feel, but my toughest match was probably in high school. It was my state finals match, and in college it was the girl who won it at the weight class below me. She was my toughest match, but I ended up winning that match. But it was a really tough match. But she's a great opponent. So.
Is there anything that makes you want to quit?
Probably just the weight cut, but I didn't let that stop me. That's something so small that I probably would have regretted if I would have quit. So. Yeah.
Have you ever gone against someone who was higher than your weight class?
No.
What's your goal for wrestling?
Huh?
What's your goal?
My goal is to make a world team and to get more All-American statuses and to hopefully make the Olympic team. So. Any more questions?
Oh, she's in.
No more questions?
What was the worst injury you ever
She's in Mr. Mendoza's class.
Probably the one on my left knee.
Thank you. No problem.
Yeah.
Did anybody have questions?
Huh?
Have you ever lost wrestling?
Yes, I have. Very unfortunate. But those are the times where you gotta figure out what you did wrong, and at that point there's nothing you can do. You just gotta go back, look at what you did wrong, and see how you can fix it and how you become better.
Do you ever want to retire and when?
Yeah, probably in a few years, maybe when I'm like 30.
On a scale 1 to 10, how much did the knee injury hurt?
At first, well, honestly, the whole time it probably hurt from like, I'd say a 7 because I couldn't really bend it. Yeah.
What was your biggest inspiration?
Inspiration. My biggest inspiration, I'd probably say Ali Reagan. She's a world team member, or was a world team member, but she taught me one of my main moves that I hit. It's called the ankle pick. And one of her camps that I went to like 2 summers ago, that's where I picked it up. And ever since I started using it, I started seeing myself winning more matches. That's also how I got my first All-American too, just by hitting that move throughout the whole match. And most of the times, like when I win, it's because I hit that. That's like my most known move. So anybody who wrestled me in like the state of Arizona knew that that was my move and knew I was gonna hit that. So yeah, I'd say Ali Reagan.
What caused your knee to hurt?
Well, I like landed on it like pretty rough from like coming up high, landed on it on the mat, and I hit my my ACL first. Yeah.
Do you ever watch like wrestling to like improve your moves and stuff?
Yeah, I do. I do a lot of film watch on like some of my like biggest role models like Ali Reagan or Helen Maroulis, or even sometimes like my former teammate Audrey. She's a really good wrestler, has a lot of like major accomplishments, and I watch her film too just to see like some stuff that I can pick up, and even when I train with her there's stuff that I pick up from her too. So yes, I do.
Did you ever want to give up on wrestling?
Really no. I mean, maybe after like the first like week of wrestling I wanted to, but I just stuck through it because I'd never been taught like to give up and just to keep going, so I just kept going, and I'm glad I did because I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So.
How much injuries did you have in total?
I probably just had one. Yeah.
What's it like wrestling at Sunnyside? What's the, what kind of responsibility do you have?
Wrestling at Sunnyside is great. The atmosphere is great. The vibes in the room are just great. You go in there and you feel like nothing but good vibes. Everybody gets along. And the major responsibilities though, wrestling at Sunnyside, is they're really big on grades. You have to maintain your grades and do well in the classroom. You can do good in the mat, but if you don't do good in the classroom, you won't even be wearing a Sunnyside singlet. So you have to make sure you maintain good grades, and I kind of found that out the hard way. And so I'm telling you now, like, freshman year, as soon as you start, stay on top of your grades if you want to wrestle at Sunnyside. And just in general, too. Just stay on top of your grades at all times. So that's one of the biggest responsibilities, too, that they have. So.
How did your brother Chris inspire you?
Well, after he started wrestling and stuff, and I like wanted to wrestle, I kind of like talked to him about it, and so he was like really supportive about it, but like him and my dad were really like kind of iffy about it because it was like a guy sport, and they didn't, they just didn't want me in that situation. But I told him like it's fine and it'll be fine, and it ended up turning out great. So I'm glad it did.
Great. Any other questions? No.
Were you ever in a championship tournament? If you were, did you win?
Championship tournament? Yeah, I was. I was in the state championship finals. That match went kind of left and didn't go exactly how I wanted it to, but it's okay because there's always better things. And but no, I didn't end up winning the state finals match, but it was a good experience. It was a good feel. There's a bunch of people there. I think it was sold out, maybe, but yeah.
Great. Anybody else? Really good questions. A lot of good questions.
Oh, sorry.
Did you ever miss softball when you started wrestling? Did you ever really want to go back to it?
There was a time where I did, but it kind of just went away. Also, while I was playing, I kind of fell out of love for the sport and just joined wrestling, and that's kind of why I just chose wrestling instead. But yeah, there's times where I miss it, but I don't miss it enough to go back. But there was good times.
What is your win-loss record in total out of all the times you fought?
That's a really good question. I don't know it at the top of my head, the exact number, but I would have to like go back and try to memorize every match. But there's definitely a lot of wins and lots of losses.
Is there any other sport you want to join?
While I did try jiu-jitsu while I was back in college, I did like a class or two, but I think I'll just stick to wrestling. Yeah.
What was the most wins you had in a row?
In a row, high school season, the beginning of the season, I won. The first half of the season, I was undefeated, and then second half is when I kind of started, having to make improvements because of losses and stuff. But the most I've won in a row, I would say like 10 throughout the first half. Yeah. So.
All right, let's give her a round of applause. Thank you, Tatiana.